Welcome to Beyond the Music, the podcast where we dive into the lives and stories of people who shaped the world of music. I am Karina.
And I am Lena. We are both classical trained singers and still recovering from a cold, as you may hear maybe. And this podcast is our chance to explore the fascinating intersections of music, history, and humanity.
In our previous episode, we discussed everything there is to know about the term bel canto, or beautiful singing. And today we will be exploring Mozart and his sopranos.
Ooh. Well,
there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, when we think of Mozart, we often focus on his genius as a composer. But what's equally fascinating is the relationships he had with sopranos of his time. His interactions with these singers ranged from deep friendships and professional collaborations to romantic interests and also personal struggles.
Mozart's ability to tailor music specifically to a singer's strengths is a defining characteristic of his operatic works. Some of these women inspired him, others frustrated him, and a few even broke his heart.
Aww.
Let's take a deeper dive into some of these relationships.
One of the most significant sopranos in Mozart's life was Nancy Storace. She was a talented English soprano known for her lively stage presence and comedic abilities. Mozart composed the role of Susanna in Le Nozze di Figaro in 1786, specifically for her.
Wow.
Just for our viewers who don't know the Italian language that well, Le Nozze di Figaro translate to the marriage of Figaro.
Mm-hmm. And their bond was more than just professional. They had a very close friendship. And unfortunately, when she lost her voice temporarily due to a vocal injury, Mozart joined Antonio Salieri, yes, that Salieri that we all know from the movie Amadeus, in composing Per la recuperata salute di Ophelia, celebrating her recovery. Translation, the title means For the Recovered Health of Ophelia. But the most touching gesture was the farewell concert aria, Ch'io mi scordi di te, non temer amato bene. K505 if any of our listeners wants to look it up and hear it, which of course translates to That I Forget You? Do not fear, beloved. Mozart wrote it for her before she left Vienna, and he himself played the piano for her performance, which really says a lot about their deep connection.
Aww. It's worth noticing that this aria is unusually intimate, more like a conversation between two lovers than a simple farewell piece. The vocal line is full of emotion, and the piano part played by Mozart himself feels like a personal exchange of feelings. This is why many speculate that there was something deeper between them.
Will we know?
But there's no concrete evidence of a romantic relationship. But the deep admiration and affection of his music for her is undeniable.
Well, we are very lucky to be hearing that kind of intimate beauty in the music that we still have today. But let's not forget that Storace was incredibly influential in the Viennese opera scene. She worked closely with multiple composers, of course, including Salieri and Martin y Soler, and even after leaving Vienna, she maintained a strong career in London. She was also known for her sharp wit and determination, which made her an unforgettable performer.
And another interesting anecdote is that when she suffered that severe vocal injury during a performance of Gli sposi malcontenti, which means the unhappy spouses, an opera by her brother, Stephen Storace, she completely lost her voice mid-performance and had to take a 5-month break from singing. Although she recovered, her voice was never quite the same. This incident led to Mozart and others Mozart and others composing music that accommodated her changed vocal abilities. So they made music which she still can sing.
Oh, that is so thoughtful. And despite this setback, she remained a sought-after soprano, proving just how exceptional her artistry and adaptability were. The fact that Mozart adjusted music specifically for her shows how much he respected her as a musician.
Absolutely, and that's why she remains one of the most iconic sopranos of her time. And then...
Well, actually, Lena, I don't know if you knew this, but my very first full operatic role was Susanna.
Really?
From Le Nozze di Figaro.
All right, you were a soprano before.
I was considered a light soprano, which is interesting.
And you were singing that role. That's like the longest Mozart role you can do. Like, as one of your first. It's crazy.
It was absolutely crazy. It really was. But I have the fondest memories with this role, with the opera, and with the music. So I can really appreciate. But, what about Aloisa Weber? Her name kept coming up.
Yeah, she's the second eldest of the famous Weber sisters.
Oh.
So let's dive into that gossip. Mozart fell madly in love with her when they met in Mannheim.
I was just there actually a couple months ago.
Well, and I was growing up close to that.
Oh.
I was always shopping in Mannheim when I had free time. Well, but it probably looked a little bit different than that. But they still have the pretty castle.
They do. It is quite pretty. We are going to have to go back to that Christmas market. But of course, we digress.
Well, and in Mannheim, he was, like Mozart, was captivated by her voice and beauty. And in an attempt to impress her, he composed several arias specifically for her, such as Alcandro io confesso, non so donde viene, which for our listeners you can look up as K294. And it translates to Alessandro, I confess, I do not know from where it comes. So the piece showcased her impressive vocal agility and expressive style.
Well, here's another little piece of gossip. He was so infatuated that he even considered eloping with her. And of course, back then, that was the biggest no-no you could do.
Mm-hmm.
But things didn't go as he had hoped. When he returned from Paris, excited to see her, she supposedly dismissed him coldly. Legend has it that, in response, Mozart sat at the piano and sarcastically sang a humorous song mocking his own rejection. That sounds just like him.
That's so typically Mozart. Yeah, his sense of humor was ever present, even in heartbreak, as you hear.
There's lots of those. What an interesting fella.
Despite this painful rejection, their professional relationship remained intact. So, yeah. Aloysia went on to become one of the Vienna's leading sopranos, and Mozart, ever the professional, continued to write for her. She was even cast in significant roles such as Donna Anna in Don Giovanni. Love that role.
Well, and what's fascinating is how his relationship with the Weber family evolved. Rather than severing ties, he ended up marrying Aloysia's younger sister, Costanza.
Oh, wow. If you can't get the one, take the other, right?
Keep it in the family. They were married in 1782. Now, I can't imagine how awkward that must have been at family gatherings.
Oh, absolutely. And Aloysia herself ended up marrying Joseph Lange. I'm German. Joseph Lange. I can speak the names in German, Josef Lange, an actor and painter who painted one of the most well-known portraits of Mozart.
No.
Yeah, so while their romantic relationship didn't work out, their musical collaborations endured. And Aloysia remained one of the top sopranos in Vienna, and Mozart continued to acknowledge her vocal brilliance by composing more challenging and beautiful music for her.
It really speaks to Mozart's ability to separate personal feelings from professional artistry. He may have been rejected by Aloysia, but he still recognized her talent and ensured that she played a significant role in his musical legacy. However, there is another lady that played an even bigger role in his musical legacy, and that would be Aloysia's younger sister, Costanza, who became the wife and his muse.
So let's look a little bit more into that gossip. Well, Aloysia's younger sister Constanze ended up being the one who captured Mozart's heart. Finally. I think you already mentioned they married in 1782, and while she wasn't initially a standout singer, she had a pleasant voice. Mozart even composed the Great Mass in C minor, which you can look us up under K 427, with intricate soprano parts for her, highlighting her vocal abilities. And the Great Mass in C minor was a grand unfinished work that stands as one of Mozart's most profound sacred compositions. And like the soprano one part is like really hard to sing, so I cannot think that she was a bad singer, because that's hard to sing.
Well, just like any other relationship, it had its challenges. There were financial struggles, illnesses, but Constanza supported him throughout. She wasn't just a singer, she was his partner in every sense. Their letters show a playful, affectionate bond full of warmth, humor, and a shared love for music. Even though Mozart had originally been enamored with her older sister, Constanza seemed to bring a different side of stability and devotion to his life.
Yeah, and let's not forget that she also performed in some of his works, showcasing that their musical connection was a strong part of their marriage. Despite initial skepticism from her mother and her sister, who may have still held lingering tensions over Mozart's past affections, Constanze ultimately proved to be his biggest supporter.
And their relationship wasn't just personal, it also had a lasting professional legacy to it. Unfortunately, Mozart died very young, and after Mozart's death, it was Constanze who dedicated herself to preserving his legacy. She worked tirelessly to ensure his compositions were published, helping cement his reputation for generations to come. In fact, without her efforts, many of Mozart's later works might have been lost.
Yeah, she even went on to marry a Danish diplomat, Georg Nikolaus von Nissen, who assisted her in compiling one of the first biographies of Mozart. I'm really language confused now because all the German names. This ensured that Mozart's life story as well as his music remained known and studied long after his passing.
I would also like to mention that there is a third sister that Mozart had connections to.
Wow.
3. Another Weber sister was Josefa. She was the first to sing the infamous Queen of the Night role in Die Zauberflöte, translated to The Magic Flute. Mozart tailored those terrifyingly high notes just for her, with its dizzying Coloratura passages, especially in Der Hölle Rache kocht in meinem Herzen, translated to Hell's vengeance boils in my heart. This role demands an extraordinary vocal range and agility.
Oh, yes. Her performance was legendary, and she continued to sing the role until 1801.
Wow.
Imagine performing those incredibly demanding arias well into her 40s. That's remarkable vocal stamina and a testament to Mozart's trust in her abilities.
It's fascinating how the Weber sisters, despite their complex relationships with Mozart, were all deeply intertwined with his music and career. From Aloysia's Heartbreak to Josefa's legendary performances, and finally to Constanza's unwavering dedication, they all played a role in shaping the Mozart we know today. However, moving outside of the Weber family, there are more ladies that played a role in Mozart's life.
Wow.
Another soprano he did this for was Caterina Cavalieri, who had a similarly extensive vocal range to Josefa, who, of course, we just mentioned, played Queen of the Night in Die Zauberflöte. She was the original Constanza in Die Entführung aus dem Serial, translated to The Abduction from the Seraglio, a role Mozart filled with long, dramatic runs, pushing the boundaries of what a singer could do at the time.
Well, Cavalieri was known for her technical prowess, and Mozart certainly tested it with Matern aller Arten, which means torches of all kinds. A piece filled with elaborate coloratura passages. Just like Josefa with the Queen of the Night, Cavalieri's performance left a lasting mark on how the role of Constanza is interpreted today.
If you want a modern connection to this specific lady, she is actually portrayed in the movie Amadeus.
Really?
Yes.
I saw it, but it's so long ago.
In the movie, she is Salieri's love interest, you know, with the big gowns and the hair. She's the one on stage.
I really don't remember it anymore because I don't remember the film, really. I just know I watched it.
Well, I think you and I, after recording, we need to watch it again because that is who the film is showing. It's based off of Caterina Cavalieri.
Oh, okay.
But both of these sopranos, Josefa and Caterina, they both showcased how Mozart composed with specific voices in mind. He didn't just write music in a vacuum. He tailored every note to the strengths of the performer, ensuring that his music would shine in their voices.
I would love to have a composer like that.
Oh, wouldn't we all?
I think it's way easier to just... Why isn't it like that anymore? Why don't we have any more composers who write for us? And we just have to sing all the composers and work around the problems.
That might actually be a very good topic for our next Connections Within Music.
Maybe.
So, listeners, if you think that we should talk about the topic of composers tailoring the music to specific voices, leave a comment. We might do that in the future.
Well, it is incredible that these roles remain some of the most challenging and admired in the operatic repertoire. I think we all singers are still loving the music and hating the music at the same time because it's challenging. Because they set a standard for the virtuosity that singers still strive for today. And for the listeners who don't know a lot about the classical singers business, Mozart is normally for auditions, you have to have a Mozart in your program. They always want to hear a Mozart. So you cannot get around it. You have to sing a Mozart.
You do. And Mozart really shows if there's any loose sections in your voice.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't have your voice completely in line, there's going to be challenges.
It sounds so easy and fun, and it is the entirely opposite.
Well,
maybe it's still fun, but it's not easy.
Well, there's this picture that's been going around a couple years of an iceberg where the top shows the success, the shiny part, and underneath is everything you've had to go through. That's kind of what a Mozart aria or even a Mozart role is. when it's beautiful and it sounds so simple, that's because all of the work has already been done underneath of it.
Yeah, that's a good picture. Well, let's go on with the Sopranos and let's talk about the person where they had a little bit more of a difficult working
Ooh.
relationship.
I have to say, this is my favorite lady.
Yeah.
I love the story. I personally love it.
Her name was Adriana Ferrarese, who sang the role of Fiordiligi in Così fan tutte, which means thus do they all. She was known for her impressive vocal ability, but Mozart reportedly found her mannerisms frustrating, especially her habit of bobbing her head dramatically whenever she sang very high or very low notes.
So, just for our listeners, when we talk about head bobbing, when she sang a high note, she would lift her head up, and when she would sing a low note, she would lift her head down. And I read somewhere that it looked similar to a chicken head. So, being Mozart, of course, what did he do? He filled her aria, the famous Come Scoglio, like a rock, with extreme leaps between registers, making her head bob even more. And I think any soprano who has sung this can agree. It's almost as if he was playfully highlighting the very thing that annoyed him about her stage presence. This aria is one of the most challenging in the operatic repertoire, requiring strength, agility, and absolute control. It almost seems like Mozart was testing her limits.
Yeah, and beyond Come Scoglio, her second big aria, Per pietà ben mio perdona, which means for pity's sake, my dear, forgive, is equally difficult, but in a different way. It demands long, sustained legato phrases that require deep breath control. If you're wondering what legato means, listen to the bel canto episode. And while some say Mozart disliked her, others argue that he must have respected her technical prowess to write such demanding music.
It's a great point, and throughout all of our research for this podcast, it's fascinating to see how Mozart's relationships with singers weren't always warm, but they still resulted in some of the most brilliant music ever written. Even though he may have disliked her personality, he still created a role for her that has stood the test of time.
Yeah, exactly. And Fiordiligi remains a role that sopranos both fear and admire. I mean, it has everything. You have to jump between your registers. You have to have a good chest voice.
Yes.
Which is something most sopranos kind of try to avoid, the part of their voices.
Which mezzos just love.
Yeah, it also goes quite high, and you have to have the vocal agility. Like, it has a lot of really, for that voice type who's singing Fiordiligi, it has quite the fast coloraturas. But then on the other hand, then you have at the end the more legato and with more the longer phrases, which is like something Donna Anna's, for example, would be the same kind of soprano singing Fiordiligi normally. But like in Fiordiligi, you have harder coloraturas.
And Fiordiligi, especially in Come Scoglio, there has to be a bit of an edge to it. She's literally telling off her sister. And especially the two men that are after her, saying, "You're not going to do this. I'm going to stay put."
Yeah.
She is literally like a rock.
Yeah, and Mozart turned this thing into a masterpiece, proving that even challenging relationships can lead to extraordinary art.
Mozart's relationships with singers shaped so much of his music, whether it was through admiration, love, friendship, or even frustration. He created some of the most beautiful operatic roles ever written.
Absolutely. His ability to compose music tailored to each singer's voice made his operas timeless, ensuring that these women's names are remembered alongside his own. And that's something really special because you don't know the favorite sopranos of all of the composers, but you know a lot about the sopranos which Mozart really liked to work with. So that's really significant of the time.
Well, for our listeners, I hope you enjoyed the world of Mozart and his sopranos as much as we did. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
Next time, we'll delve into another fascinating chapter of music history. Until then, keep listening and discovering the stories beyond the music. See you next time.